Crypto mass adoption is right around the corner. We have celebrities pointing to crypto, doing all sorts of amazing things, which is always a really, really good sign, right? Remember 2017 with Katy Perry painting her nails, some sort of like Tron and Litecoin and other sort of shit coins, a whole assortment of them, one for every finger. But in today's video, I want to put that statement to the test. Are we seeing a massive influx of new people into this space? As celebrity endorsements do start to get more and more, I guess, prevalent. And, you see Ethereum getting ETFs as well. So it does seem like there may be some merit to that. So I want to be checking out some metrics, also going over Bitcoin daily price action, as well as following up on the higher term time frame picture as we get another major closure last night. And other than that, I should let you know that we still have our sale going on for the rest of the week with the code ABUNDANCE in all capital. Abundance, ABUNDANCE. I think, in all capitals there, for all of the services in the link description below, especially with big focus towards the Krown Quant automation services that actually allows you, or awards you, I should say, the discount on every month that you are signed up to that. All right, sweet. Let's jump right into it. Start off with the content of the day, which is mass adoption. And for this, I always like to kind of default to the Google Trends, as you can see right here. And what I've done is I've plotted Bitcoin, or the Bitcoins, as Trump likes to say. And we're just looking at the interest over time, according to Google, which I do think is a pretty damn good metric as to measuring general clout, if you want to call it that. And what I thought was very interesting here, and what I actually did not expect to see, is that 2017, the run where Bitcoin went from about $1,000 to $20,000 in, relatively short amount of time. It seemed like basically 6 months. That is the sort of gold standard in terms of full-on hype for Bitcoin. We'll look at other things in a second here, but comparing that with even the 2021 rally, you can see that Bitcoin was not, the major focus for that one. Obviously, that was coming off the backs of a lot of the DeFi products and a lot of the other altcoins and whatnot. And while Bitcoin did get, a surge in interest, it was not even comparable. It was barely, it was about 66% of the interest that we did see in 2017, which is like, that's a pretty big difference in my opinion. And even on this current rally, as Bitcoin does get back up to $70,000 or really even making new all-time highs, we see the least amount of interest in Bitcoin, according to this, compared to all the other major highs. So I did think that was rather interesting, just because, well, you typically expect with Bitcoin printing new all-time highs, that brings out the headlines, brings out the people, brings out the milkshakes to the yards and all that other crazy shit, which you probably don't even know, because most people on this channel are above 30, so you probably do know about the milkshakes. But my point is that, as far as full on hype and hopium and whatnot, it doesn't seem to be like we've quite seen it just yet. And this does, puts numbers onto kind of judging these perspectives. But let's compare that now with crypto as a search term, which I think is rather interesting, because crypto compared to Bitcoin is actually making new highs over time. Now, compared to Bitcoin just in nominal terms, Bitcoin still gets significantly more interest here, obviously. Or I shouldn't say obviously, but according to the chart, actually I would have expected crypto, because it's more like open-ended, right? But that's actually not what we see. In fact, we see quite literally the opposite. But again, what is interesting here is that crypto over time seems to be gaining momentum, making new highs in interest above its prior macro highs, correlated price action as well. Here's your 2017, 2018 high, here's your 2021 high, and then of course, our most recent one. Well, we don't really have one just yet, but it is already, reclaiming about half. Yeah, more than half. So the prior high was 28, and our current high is 16. So more than half. We're already seeing of interest on this current run. So we probably do expect to make new highs on that. In fact, I'd say when this starts making significantly new highs, it's probably gonna be a damn good indication as to when this cycle is over. So timing this sort of cycle, this will come into play as well. I think Bitcoin's gonna be less of that because it's making lower highs over time and just not as interesting. Let's also just throw in Ethereum here. I actually did not pre-look at this one. So I don't really know what to expect. Well, let's see. It's going to be represented by the red, and actually pretty similar to just straight up crypto. A little bit less interest overall, but But yeah, a much more similar chart to that. And the reason why I'm looking at Ethereum here is just because Ethereum got, the ETF recently. And so we would expect that there is, more interest pouring in. So overall, things are still very, very quiet. Is kind of the picture that I'm painting, or not the picture that I'm painting, but the picture that I am looking at being painted by these damn numbers over here. Anyways, let's now go into some Bitcoin price action. Let's talk about the daily statistics, and let's talk about the daily range, and then of course our long-term setup. So in this case, we do see that Thursday, if we just measure, we're only measuring the Thursdays beginning from 2024, January 1st to current date, then basically it's been a coin flip in terms of whether Thursday is more likely to close positively or negatively, similar to what we saw on Wednesday. Just a slight edge in favor of the positive side, but nothing super emphatic here. And what is more interesting to me, and what has been very consistent throughout this current consolidation, is looking at the average gain and average loss to kind of come up with an area of interest for the day. Because while Bitcoin is playing out these sort of low volatile ranges, we can expect that Bitcoin, at least on the day, is going to hit at least one of those sides, and it's probably going to mark the high or low of the day. In fact, that has been very consistent now for weeks, almost every day, it seems. Anyways, in this case, on the days that did have positive returns, it did get an average of 2%, and on the days that it did have negative Thursday returns, did lose an average of 1.75%. So to the upside, where that kind of put us around, if it were to test around there, that would be $69,000 or just above $69,000. Great number right there. And then if it were to play at the downside, 175, what are we looking at as far as that goes? Somewhere around mid $66,000 territory. So if you do see a move somewhere around either one of those sides, probably going to see a bounce or a pullback, depending upon which side that it does hit. But moving on from there and putting this into the HPDR indicator, we can see that the daily range is, it's more or less unchanged here as far as what matters for our purposes. Still, I think CME is the most obvious chart. Below now, I would even say below yesterday's low, especially on a closing basis, I would be expecting a breakdown. And that is about $67,000. Again, that's CME. Spot price action is going to be about $500 below there, as there's a pretty large premium of futures over spot at about $500 or $400 to $500. So yeah, I'd say $66,500 for spot price action. As long as Bitcoin's above there, Boo Laws still theoretically have the ball in their court. But you really wouldn't be expecting below there, especially on a closing basis. Otherwise, I would still say the same thing as before. You're probably going to see a move somewhere between $63,000 to $64,000. Doesn't really seem like all that much, especially when Bitcoin's trading at $68,000 as of the time of this recording. But these things do matter, especially in the more short term. Of course, if we go over here to the 5-day range, which spot price action just got a new one as of last night, the HPDR. Actually rather interesting right here, just because Bitcoin did close basically right on the median, and today opening above the median. You still have to, or not you, but I would still have to favor the upside from this. But again, if Bitcoin, if you see Bitcoin below 665 now on a daily closing basis, have to be looking back down towards $64,000, probably bounce around there and then reassess. So again, as long as this condition is met right here, nothing really changed for me. I'm still biased towards upside. Yeah, it looks weak. Yeah, it looks like it looks very well like it could come down. But at the end of the day, rules are rules, right? So looking at that and then comparing that with, of course, our new 5-day open for the stochastic oscillator, which is relevant right now because of this setup, the 5-day BBWP, or volatility versus stochastic momentum setup, is still baking here, and it's actually at about as low as it can get. We're seeing BBWP at about 1.5 percentile. So, putting that in the context of past results, we're probably looking at a move on the lower end, about 30%, on the upper end, about 50% from this current base. Now, does that come to the upside or the downside? Well, as long as the 5-day stochastic oscillator is positioned to the upside, it's the same thing as what we just spoke about right here. It's like, I'm going to be obviously biased towards an upside resolution. And with this new open, the pivot now has moved down from yesterday was 65,900 or 800, somewhere around there. It's actually moved down now a couple $1,000 to 63,750. When I see something like that, typically that is going to favor, in this case, the upside as well. So as long as that condition is met, personally speaking, I have to be biased towards the upside. I'm going to be going with, the probabilistically more likely thing as always. Doesn't mean it's always going to be right. And of course, there can still be some weighting within here. But as of right now, it's kind of like before the ball was in the Bears court. Now the ball is in the Bulls court. If Bulls really fail to kind of take it upwards and onwards from here, I would say within this next 5 to 10 day spread, well, you expect some downside, right? But until then, and as long as the condition is met over here, at least myself has to be going with the more likely thing to be happening, which would be upside. And we're probably looking at, 30 to 50% move from this base. So 30% up would put Bitcoin in the low 80s. 50% up obviously puts Bitcoin in the mid 90s. Just for reference. Also, we're about 11 minutes into this video now. I just want to make one quick comment because I'm getting a lot of questions about this, about the Krown quant automation services over here. This is the voodoo magic that I show typically when it comes to setups and whatnot. And I just wanted to quickly show one of my own setups, like something that I actually run myself, that I have my little slaves, play out for me. I got my whips right here, and in my little bot slaves, they actually do all the execution of the background. But just kind of show what this would actually look like, or at least what it looks like for myself, because I do not trade higher term time frame strategies. Just I don't have the patience for it, or my bots don't have the patience for it. But I don't have the patience to wait for the results. This is what I'm trying to say. But even here, I want to take a second to just kind of comment on this, because this is a strategy that has been working quite well for a long time. This back test here goes from 2018 to present. So it's seen bear market, bull market, black swan, white swan. It's seen pretty much everything at this point. And I want to just highlight a couple things because, I see a lot of people getting into the service, which is great. People who are interested in automated trading or automated back testing. But I think it's very enlightening when you start to narrow down and look at the actual results over time. And you have to really ask yourself what that would have looked like if you were in that moment. So I will, I'll call out this area right here. This is trade number 955. And up until then, things have been pretty much just vertical. Yes, there were losses in between. Obviously, there's a shit ton of trades included here, but generally, on a weekly basis, things were upwards and onwards. But from this high, you can see that it was pretty much a downtrend, and this represented about a few months worth of price action. Imagine that you're consistently making overall losses on the week for a month, 2 months, 3 months. That can happen. My point is that if you're going to employ this sort of style of trading, what you really have to come to terms with is you're going to be thinking in terms of like years, not months, or you can think in terms of months as well. But you certainly don't want, my point is you don't want to be thinking about it on a singular trade basis or even like a few trade basis. You want to be thinking about it on like a, 100 trade basis. And actually have seen the same thing relatively recently. And I've been running this strategy now for a while. I mean, I've been running it for 6 months. Maybe more, and it's actually pretty much vertical through most of that. But when March came around, it put in the high right here, and ever since then it's been kind of chopping sideways and down. So what do I see in my account when that happens? Just really, just kind of chipping away at it, little by little. It seems like, and you can even see it's in the monthly thingy down here, which gives you the returns by months. From November of last year, you can see that March, lost 2.5%. April lost a little under 1%. The other months were actually pretty big gainers, so the total is still positive overall. But my point is that if you are going to be, or if you're even interested in this sort of style of trading, understand what that's probably going to look like. It's over time that you see the results. In a singular week or on like a few trade basis. It's just a data point. It doesn't really mean much. So anyways, that's enough for me speaking towards that. Maybe I'll put another strategy video a little bit later today. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be focused on Ethereum just to celebrate the ETF there. But overall, I want to be wishing the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.